her shoulder and the child and sent her away. Hello, over here. Only child support Hagar got was a loaf of bread and a bottle of water. Come on in the room. Only kind of means she was supplied to take care of her child was a loaf of bread and a bottle of water. She thought the child was going to die of thirst. After the water in the bottle had been spent. But because God saw her situation for what it really was, because God looked beyond what existed and could see why it existed, God shows her and tells her he still got a blessing for her. Because see, Hagar didn't move according to ignorance. Hagar did the best she could with what she had to deal with. As Sarah's slave girl, she didn't have a choice in the matter. Her mistress told her she had to allow her master to impregnate her. And so Hagar was only doing what was commanded of her. Therefore, because she didn't know any better, she was not at charge with the fault that she now had to deal with. And see, that's the way some of these things come about. Sometimes because of who your parents were. Sometimes because of the family that you were born into. You didn't know any better. Nobody ever taught you that God wanted one man and one woman to come together as husband and wife. As a matter of fact, it was almost conditioned in some of us. It was almost groomed into some of us that this was a normal way of life. You meet somebody, you like them, you get to know them. That's all you saw your mama do. That's all you saw your daddy do. That's all Big Mama and them did. That's all your aunties and your uncles did. All your cousins did the same thing. And they would swap out folk just like swapping out stamps at a swap meet. It wasn't no big deal. It was just a way of life. But there's something about learning better that God wants you to start doing better, because you can't do nothing about what you didn't know about, because God is so good that he will consider the fact that you didn't know no better and bless you anyhow. Amen. That's the kind of God we serve. Amen. God looks at not only what exists, God looks at why it exists. And because of that, Hagar got a blessing with Ishmael. Kicked out the house, she still got a blessing. Put on the road with a bottle of water and a loaf of bread, but she still got a blessing. Sent out into a wilderness by herself with a child that she didn't have by herself. And God still gave her a blessing. What I'm telling you is that your situation is not hopeless. Just because you started off on the wrong foot don't mean you have to end up on the wrong foot. Learn from your mistakes. And then from this point on, let the Lord build your house. Psalm 127, beginning at verse number 1, very pivotal truth is being presented unto us in this passage. The psalmist says, except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. Except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain. I need to inform that if the Lord is going to build your house, you got to lay down the foundation of that house like the Lord says.
All right.
One man, one woman coming together as husband and wife. And God's rules has to be the rules of that house. God's laws have to be the laws of that house. God's ways have to be the ways of that house. Because if not, then the Lord is not building that house. And the psalmist informs us that unless the Lord builds that house, you wasting your time. I don't care how many counseling sessions you go to. I don't care how many workshops you attend. It doesn't matter how many retreats you go on or how much money you pay to do this, that, and the other. If the Lord ain't building that house, you can pay $75 an hour and still go home with the same problem you came there with. Because if the Lord ain't building your house, there ain't nobody in America, ain't no book in the library, ain't no formula in the psychologist's office that can put you two back together if you didn't allow the Lord to build that house. You got to let the Lord build the house. The Lord got to lay the foundation. Sister girl, boo-boo, honey child, you establish principles for your own self. Reading an article, in essence, just a few nights ago, it talked about how certain women have certain criteria and standards that they set when looking for a mate. The majority of them wanted a man with a certain salary. The other ones wanted a man with a certain body structure. The other ones wanted a man who could communicate well. And when they had finished polling these fellas, when they had finished looking at all of the things that these women say that they wanted, they had come to the conclusion that they wanted a man who walked like Denzel, had muscles like The Rock, and the intelligence of Barack Obama. After they had finished polling the ideas of the women, they had determined that the perfect American man would be a cross between The Rock, Denzel, and Obama. None of them wanted a godly man.
Well,
none of them said, Lord, send me a man that will help me raise my children. None of them said, Lord, send me a praying man.